Greetings, everybody, from the Bandit Radio Hour. This is nuts, because I guess we're in a new timeline thanks to the Hadron Collider in Germany. In this alternate universe, me and Merce started a podcast that's seemingly being somewhat successful, which is odd.
We're never successful in anything.
No, so this is like, I'm sorry, everybody else, how this reality's turning out, but
it's our world now.
Gil's finally getting lick, and it is nice. So yeah, welcome everybody. I'm the Bandit, and I'm here with my producer, Merce. Sound off.
Hi.
No, it's not Spanish this time. That was a test. We have a
I went back to my roots.
We have a vetting process around here. Only I'm the one that's allowed to speak the most Spanish, and that really sucks for a lot of other people. But anyways, hope y'all are doing good tonight. Yeah, we're gonna go over some news. We're gonna go over some niche community aspects. I think a lot of our listeners will appreciate, and a lot of things just going on. First of all, of course, Merce, how's your week been?
Not good.
All right.
Long.
Maybe it's not turning the corner sharp enough on us quick enough.
No. But it's the little things.
Yeah.
Silver linings.
Yeah. I've been, but I'm not going to get deep into it. Just I've been working cattle with new system and new rigs and it's been intensive but rewarding. And I've been up since 5:30, going nonstop. And what time is it now, Merce?
10:38.
10:38 p.m. And yeah, we're pumping this out because we believe this is going to be the season finale of the Bandit Radio Hour. Merce actually does have to go off out of state and do some things, and he's been hard at work producing, so we're going to give him a little bit of a vacation. Let him go make some money.
But we hope to be back bigger and better.
And possibly bigger and better.
Yes.
That didn't work. I thought that would work, but it didn't.
And we can't guarantee that, but it's the hope.
Well, we're going to find out. So we're going to jump right into it. CERN, the Hadron Collider. I guess they turned that back on. And I feel like that's very important, and I need to bring that up. But anything I have to say on it will be pure faith, because it's so far above my head, and that's not the kind of stuff I dig into. But Merce, what were you saying? They not invented or discovered 3 new elements?
Not elements, particles they'd never witnessed before. So I don't know. I don't really know what that entails. But about all the other times they've smashed things together, they've never witnessed that.
I would love to see the Vegas odds on what's gonna be the end of the world, if there is gonna be one. Is it the Google AI that asked for a lawyer recently, or is it just gonna be us? Who knows? Maybe I imagine there's a scientist out there listening. Probably not at all. But I imagine if there was, he'd be like, "Oh, you dumb hillbilly! No, this poses no threat whatsoever." But
and we're over here just black holes.
Yeah,
dimensions.
And for the doomsday sayers, talking about Vegas odds, almost it was a neat thing I heard. Almost all civilizations before us believed they would witness the end of the world. Even just going back to the 1800s, and different Christian leaders would be like, "Well, I've done the math, and it'll be in 1902 is the end of it." And everyone's ready in 1902, and they're like, "Oh, nothing's happening."
Well, we thought it'd be 2012.
Which
there's even a movie,
dude. And at the time, I thought that movie was good, and I was 22 at the time. What a dumb movie.
The only part I relate to is the crazy guy.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, Woody Harrelson in the camper screaming and have his radio thing, which is exactly what we're doing right this minute.
And why the lava could be coming over the horizon. Yeah, I agree. My favorite there, not my favorite, just the one that makes the most sense is the Mayans who made the calendar were very, very good at predicting the future of not meteorological, what the hell do you call it? Star events. And they were like, we can predict it up to a certain point, then things get hazy. We're just going to stop at 2012.
I saw a meme, and the guy's he's like, I ran out of room at 2012, and the chief's like, oh, that's going to freak somebody out one day.
Yeah, that sure did. Oh, man. And everybody's always been fascinated with these. I'm almost convinced, like, all right, if there is a God, and he does like really care about our Earth and wants us to live it, which is like a bunch of assumptions and givens I'm asking for, but let's say all of that's a given. What a funny thing that is. That's like, I'm protecting this thing while life has evolved for millions of years, and y'all are just freaking out about it. This is neat. Yeah. But on the other hand, we could be destroying the Earth and not know it. Or, side rant. I am like really happy with protecting the environment, but the way it is sold within itself, like carbon emissions alone, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying carbon emissions are good or that they're neutral, like they're probably bad. Maybe. I don't know enough science to one way or like to figure out which side is propaganda pretty much. Or which side is more propaganda, whether it's bad or good or not so bad. But
the only way you can stop it is by giving us money. Yes,
like that's my thing. It's like, no. Let's figure out other ways to stop it. But side rant over. We prematurely aborting that side rant.
Don't say that right now.
It's topical. So outside of things I don't know hardly anything about, like CERN, let's go to things I just slightly don't know about, like the Georgia Guidestones. So before I reveal, like if you haven't seen the news recently or what happened to them, or even better yet, if you're wondering what the hell the Georgia Guidestones are, that's where I'm going to start. So what Mercer was like, they were put in Georgia in the late 80s.
Yeah, some guy went to Stonehenge and saw it, and then came back and kind of wanted to do something similar.
Yeah, so he built, like, I think they're 20-foot tall pillars, concrete pillars. It's like 4 of them standing upright. They're like rectangular.
Yeah, and one on top.
And the one thing I heard was like it's believed that like Ted Turner was one of the people that paid for it, but there was like a group of people that paid for it.
Yeah, the only thing I read on it is that when they were originally like commissioning to build it, the builder didn't want to do it and gave him some super high price to try to discourage him, and they still paid it anyways.
Yes, and allegedly I heard Ted Turner was connected. I remember reading that from a seemingly dependable source, but I can't quote it, so man, trust a guy on the internet, why don't you? But have you heard about what is written on them?
All kinds of stuff, like the population should only be a certain amount, but it's all in different languages. And
hey, real quick, let's just do everybody a favor. Look it up. And Merce looked it up and pulled it up and all that within like half a second because we totally didn't stop mid-production and take 20 minutes to Google it. It's hard to find. It's a tough little booger to find these quotes until you actually put it in the Google box the right way. But Merce, so like, what's one of the first things that's written on it?
Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. I can stand by that because it means less stupid people.
What if it's only one smart guy and 499,999,999 stupid people?
Well, that's just the plot for Idiocracy.
And there is still less stupid people on the earth if that's the case. And all right, they got the first point.
You can't knock that one.
There's some wiggle room. That's all I'm saying. There's an argument to be made there.
Second, guide reproduction.
Well, hang on. No. Back up. I'm not done with number 1. But, like, first off, why 500 million?
Solid round number.
Why not 500 million and 1? Or 2 to make it even? Like, what? How would that even work? Like, there's no, like...
I pictured a guy with, like, a cattle counter, and that's just as high as his little clicker goes.
Man, it makes... all right, so that's a pretty bold opening statement.
Yeah, I don't think there's any science backing it. Let's just pick a number.
Yeah, just, that sounds good. And you gotta remember, like, when was it erected, Merce?
The 80s.
The 80s? So,
wasn't the population already over that by the 80s?
All right, hang on. This is one of my favorite popular misconceptions to just smash to pieces. Overpopulation. This is something that, like, we've been taught told about since, I believe, the late 1800s. So when it really started, they were like, oh no, we figured out, like, this is a globe, definitely, and we're filling in all the borders, and we're running out of room. I can't remember the dude's name, but he proposes it, like, if we keep having babies and keep eating food and more, we'll eventually run out of food. And then later on in the 1960s, the population bomb came out, which like put a lot of new scientific data on this idea of human population growth going unchecked. And one of the things they didn't account for was human innovation. Like since then, we're rapidly evolving technologically wise. And I know most of it's in like communications and digital stuff, but also out in the field, things are evolving. New ways to grow food, new ways to transport it, new ways to consume it, new ways to store it. Like, I mean, wasn't that long ago I saw in Japan where they had figured out how to make watermelons cube-like, so you can stack them better.
Right.
And like they could grow them on the roofs and stuff. It's like, oh, we're figuring this out. And I know people are spread out all amongst the globe. But this is like, I remember doing this this math formulation 3 or 4 years ago. So the numbers have changed a little bit. But if you actually it's a very simple math equation. If you take the world population, let's say it's 6 billion. I know it's a little more than that. Let's just go with that for right now. And you spread that out over the population density of different cities. And you can look up the population density of the examples they used was Paris, New York City, and like a small town in Texas. And if you got all the world's population and piled it into one city, like how big would that city be based on the population density of Paris? And that was the example they used. Merce, take a guess. That's like general. Let's compare it to United States states. Like, how big do you think that city would be if you crammed all the world's population and it was about as thick as Paris is as far as people living in it?
Like Georgia.
Georgia. Turns out it'd be like half of New Hampshire. It's not near, maybe not that small, but when like it's actually laid out, it's like, that's a ridiculously small city. Like when you think about all the world's population, then it's like when it got to like small town Texas levels of human density, like how close people live together. I think it was spread out like the Northeast, like it took up all the states in the Northeast. And it's like, oh, there is a lot more land than there is people. Now you got to take into account what land is arable, what land you can farm on. And the neat thing about that is land is so different everywhere. You can find new ways to grow different things that have never been thought of before. If all the restrictions on trying new things could just get out of the way. So, Merce, what number are we at on the Georgia Guidestones?
Oh, that was still number 1.
Oh, all right. What's number 2?
Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity.
That's vague as all hell.
Yeah.
At least the 500 million's precise. But who guides who gets to breed?
I don't know, but it must be so you still only end up with 500 million.
Maybe. But like that's my problem with like so many of these ways to like organize all of society is it's always like, all right, who picks?
Oh, then you're going to love number 3.
Oh, yeah.
Unite humanity with a living new language. New language.
Ooh.
So that means...
Ooh, that tickled a noodle in my head.
Pick or make up a new language.
Or...
I can barely learn the current languages.
Or... put something in everybody's head that lets them understand each other without language.
If you're going back Neuralink.
Yeah, we're breaking the rule. We're mentioning Elon Musk. So that just noodle popped in my head. So read the text of number 3 one more time. Just
unite humanity with a living new language.
What the hell is it? Aren't all languages technically like? I mean, if you're counting a language as living, like isn't
Latin's not.
That was good. Okay, that made me giggle. That was touche. But and like no, like I mean, all right. Let's say I'm not going to get in a thick discussion about what is living and what isn't. No, that's too much for tonight. I'm too tired. No. All right. Number 4, Merce. Lay it on us.
Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason.
Dude, whoever wrote this was an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, no, like, even if it's like, all right, I believe you, wise stones. Tell me what I should do. It's like, figure it out within reason.
I picture a guy, like, say, if these were still there, like, 500 years from now, going, what? We blew past these numbers. Whoa. Then it goes to protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Way past that already,
with just laws and fair courts.
Fair laws and just courts, but yeah.
Whatever. So much of this is so vague, it's dumb.
Then
like it's
let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
And dude, I can just tell by how like the words they're using. Maybe this is the pot calling the kettle black. This guy thinks he's a genius and he's a moron. Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah. All right, number whatever's next.
They didn't number them, so.
Okay.
Avoid petty laws and useless officials. That might be the only one I agree with so far.
I'd use a harsher term than avoid, but all right.
Balance personal rights with social duties.
I'll balance whatever the hell I want, whatever manner I see fit.
Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. That hurts my mind to read.
Okay, this might sound like something a little cliche I'm saying, but how great would this be if it was a troll?
The original?
It was just like a dude like Ted Turner in the 80s. It's just like, you know what? Big stone, make it say neat things, make people think.
I feel like these are just like a bunch of fortune cookie sayings.
Dude, it really is. Like, it's not much better than just random stuff you hear.
And it ends with, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature. And then again under it reiterates, leave room for nature.
No. Like, even, like, all that just sounds nice, but, like, okay. I'm a rancher. Am I leaving room for nature? It depends on, like, who you're asking. Like, some people, yes, like, it's a big natural place, and others are like,
well, technically, it was put on 5 acres, the rocks were on 5 acres, and the guys that put it there gave lifetime grazing rights to the rancher, so cows weren't grazing on it.
That makes no sense. Dude, all right. So the reason we bring up the Georgia Guidestones is somebody out there in the United States, I think driving a silver Buick or something, not a Buick, but a sedan. That's the type of car it's called. Blew them up. And there's actually security recordings like on the internet. Just look up Georgia Guidestones explosion on YouTube. And
I think somebody was just trying to read them and their mind just blew up.
Dude, not even that. I don't even, we're all like picturing like, oh, is it an Antifa radical communist or is it some Timothy McVeigh inspired constitutional? No, I just think it's a guy that read them and he's like the perfect centrist and he's like, this got to go.
These can never hurt anyone ever again.
Yes. This cannot. Georgia, what the hell are you doing with your tourist attractions? That's what y'all get for starting off as a prison colony. God. Speaking of prison colonies, what is going on in the Netherlands with the farmers making some very interesting protests? Now, let me tell you the snippet that I just glanced at social media and saw earlier today, and it was, farmers are using tractors in the Netherlands to protest an emissions ban. And at first glance, I would think to most people that would see like, okay, that sounds like there's some new regulations about possibly like carbon emissions maybe coming out of their tractors. Like that was my first glance thought. And that's the government wanting to crack on. It's probably going to cost farmers more money, and that's why they're protesting. Which, hey, something this government, this regulation that's going to cost you more money, yeah, protest. But we did some digging, and it's so much worse than that. It's so incredibly dumb. And let's go through the ABC article, Merce. Like, what was the first big thing that grabbed your attention?
Where it says the government says the emissions of nitrogen oxide and ammonia, which livestock produce, is what they're actually after.
So it's the emissions that livestock produce. So that means the crap and farts and pee of the livestock. Huh. Interesting. I wonder how they plan on reducing that. I mean, I don't think you could ask the cows to pee and crap and fart half as much.
Well, it says the ruling coalition wants to cut emissions predominantly by those means by 50% nationwide, calling it an unavoidable transition. And then goes on to state, the honest message is that not all farmers can continue their business, and those who do will likely have to farm differently, the government said.
And that's a quote from the government on the matter.
Correct.
And wasn't there something in there about that? And I love this one about protecting natural areas and endangered species. They always love throwing that in.
Yes. After about the nitrogen oxide and ammonia, which livestock produce, must be drastically reduced close to nature areas that are part of a network of protected habitats for endangered plants and wildlife, stretching across the 27 European Union.
And it is amazing how big those wildlife preservation areas can get and just swamp an entire area that where the people are taking care, but for the most part, preserving the wildlife. So yeah, the European Union, in short, what it is saying is, hey, we're passing new regulations that's going to reduce the number of livestock everyone's raising by half. I wonder what that's going to do to a lot of the ranching producers, especially the smaller ones. Because, of course, the big boys can afford to take a hit, especially if they gain more of the market. And if you're restricting the production of beef, that means the price of beef will go up. Man, what was the meme with we're going to ring a bell like every time we bring them up, that the World Economic Forum, about what they said, something about how our meat consumption diet has to change.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like eat the bugs, and it's like
convenience.
That really is. And so anyways, the farmers ended up, but it turns out this wasn't just like yesterday. What, Merce? This was like for
like all week or a week, like 2 weeks.
And what was the number of, and by the way, from the picture I saw, I was like, oh, it said they were blocking traffic. And it showed like 2 tractors with what looked like their booms out, blocking what would be like a 4-lane highway or something like that. That was the like picture impression I got off of the generic corporate news website. I can't remember. Merce, how many farmers was it in the Netherlands?
ABC News cites 40,000 protesting.
That's a whole lot of hillbillies. And
and it says most of them arrived by tractor.
And were fired at by police.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and then arrested. So, and now, yes, is that Europe and not the U.S.? True. It'll probably affect me as much. Might actually bring us better beef prices, higher demand. So that'll be good for us guys. But
it'd be bad if it sets a precedent for the U.S. to follow suit.
Yes, and I'll tell you,
it's a slippery slope.
I don't like giving. My skin crawls every time I give Trump a compliment. No offense, Trumpers. Just I feel like the guy's overrated. That's all. That's it. I'm not gonna. But one thing I will throw him was backing out of that Paris climate accord thing. I mean, even then, I was like, there was a part of me that said, like, is that really going to change anything? They're just going to get in here a different means. There's going to be a new president. So even if Trump does 8 years, there's going to be someone new that eventually agrees to it. But hell, it seems like it at least threw a monkey wrench into some of this where it can't drastically come over here as much.
Pump the brakes, if nothing else.
And watch, I mean, and that was for, now hang on, that was the farmers protesting in Switzerland. But those were rules set. Netherlands, my bad. Man, I get those Norwegian countries confused.
Yeah.
Like they're all tall, blonde, blue-eyed people.
Netherlands not neutral.
Good way to remember. Isn't that the country where like they mandate that all their males of a certain age like be in firearm training and?
Well, I think several of those countries there.
Yeah, they're like really big on like yes, we like our guns.
And wooden shoes.
Yeah. And windmills, fascinatingly. And yet there's a Spanish story about who's the dude that chased Don Quixote. Yeah, that just always pissed me off that he chased after windmills. Like even in 7th grade, I'm like, I know this is an old novel, but this is stupid by those means.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is like, I'm curious. I wonder why it was just Switzerland that had the giant protest. Were they in other places and they did not go on to be reported? Or is it just like most of the agriculture, maybe livestock agriculture, is really concentrated in that area?
Well, that's what it said. The Netherlands is known for having high numbers of livestock on smaller paddocks because they do high capacity farming.
Okay, all right. Hey, side note. I think this was 4 or 5 years ago. Did I ever tell you about the Norwegians coming out to the ranch?
No.
Oh, dude. So I had a cousin that went to college abroad, and she came back, and like part of it was one of her European professors was like, hey, can I bring my class out to see how y'all ranch in the United States to a real ranch? She's like, yeah, come on. And my mom was the one that showed them around who was running the cattle operation. First off, let me say something. I'm 6'2". I'm a tall string bean of a guy. These people dwarfed me. Like the chicks
They're literally Vikings.
Dude, they like literally. I was looking at all of them and I was like, don't get me wrong, they look like a bunch of emo goth nerds. I'm still a little like I'm still like if I had to take them.
You wouldn't tell that to their face.
No. I'm like, wow, Bjork, you're quite a tall fella. But no, and hey, all right, we're going down a rabbit hole in this one with these people visiting from. It might have been Norway, but it's one of those Scandinavian countries. But while they were here, they were looking at how we work cattle, and they're like, "Oh, we sedate our cattle before we do like any medicine treatment or anything like that." We're like, "Oh, welcome to the cow pens where we dehorn them." But which like. You know, on one hand, I'm like, man, y'all's way is more humane than how we do it, which, like, I really like. That appeals to me. That, like, I'd like to be as nice as you can to whatever you're raising. And I think most people feel that way. But here in the States, we got to produce beef. And
there's simply no time.
No, it would like that. There's no way they could do it on the scale that we do. And I could kind of hear a lefty arguing like, well, maybe we shouldn't do it on that scale, man. And it's like, all right, stop eating beef then. Like that's, and well, yeah. So just get enough people to stop. Well, hang on now. goes back to the
emotion.
Yeah. We'll take a couple steps back with that one. WEF. But yeah, that was a trip to having a bunch of Europeans come out to the ranch. That was wild. I got to ride around and talk with them and stuff. And just by the way, I know I just butchered all those countries, and like I when I say the Norwegian countries or the Scandinavian countries or Iceland or Switzerland I'm speaking of a general area, but. To put the matter straight, we were talking about Switzerland, and not Switzerland, the Netherlands. There was the farmers in the Netherlands, and there I'm walking away from these damn European countries before I butcher them anymore. All right, one of the things we definitely have to get in tonight is one of my favorite things we started doing on this show, and I've been requesting the listeners do. If I say anything. And you're like, hey, I got a point that really counters what you're saying. I love to hear it, run it through the filter. And let me tell you, this lady down in Port Charlotte, like, wrecked my because the best logic I had heard on the Roe v. Wade that we talked about last week or the week before, as I laid out, I'm not going to get deep into it, but it's like it's life at conception, pretty much. And this lady threw in hell of a curveball into that. And she said, all right, if that's true, and you like being philosophically consistent, what about test tube babies? And she goes, like how like you'll have a sperm and an egg, and
Don't break the test tube.
Well, all right. Here's the thing, though. Here's the example she brought up. She goes, what if you're like a company that has like a warehouse of freaking embryos that have the sperm and the egg together? And she says, technically that's conception by this philosophy. So let's say you got like 500 of them in there, and you lose power and they all die. She goes, is that 500 counts of manslaughter? If it's a person, then that'd be manslaughter, the unintentional killing of somebody. It's like, but I think most of us would look at that and go, that's not 500 counts.
I can see saying 500 loss of life.
I could see that.
Not necessarily, because like if I know hospitals have generator, but say you've got somebody hooked up to life support and power goes out and that goes out too. Do you sue the power company for arrest the power company for manslaughter?
Ooh, now I don't know. That's good. You threw a counter to her counter. I'm lost in a sea of counters. While I'm holding my coffee.
Kitchen.
Yeah, I was about to say, while my coffee cup is on a counter. But so okay, hang on. Back that up. Run me through that. So if like a hospital, I don't know if it's, I guess that would depend on if it was negligence or
Same thing. You can argue the same thing with the test tube babies.
And well, when she popped that up, and you bring up a good counter to the counter, but there's a part of me that's like, all right, so from what I can tell, none of this is logically consistent on this. Like there is it's one big mean gray area.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of stepping on landmines with it. So we're gonna leave, unless someone can come up with like a really solid logical line.
I think a lot of the points are valid, but there's not one that's like
fits.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to the CERN Hadron Collider. Did I say it right this time? Not hydrogen, Hadron, and the flimsiness of reality and all that. So much of this stuff, I really think our minds want and I know mine does. It wants an answer. Like, here's the answer to this problem, and I can tuck it away, and it's solved, and I ain't got to worry about it anymore. There's like so much crap in this subjective reality. It's just like, nope, chaos. Yeah. We're on a rock spinning around a big fire that comets fly through every day. That's like not us, but the big fire, and in between us, the sun. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we're on a space rock just whizzing through nothingness.
Paying money to terrible people by force through taxes and other means. But anyways, I at least wanted to address that and bring that up. And it's kind of a reminder to everybody else. If you have any counters to any of the crap I'm saying, please enlighten me and I'll bring it up and talk about it. And while we're in this neck of the woods, I'm going to go ahead and just plug a couple of things because I guess we need to start doing that since my producer is working overtime and making us look like a legitimate thing. You can follow us on Twitter at the Bandit Radio Hour. Instagram, we don't have a Facebook. Yet. We definitely don't have a TikTok. Hopefully never will. Hopefully it never comes down to. If it comes down to that, we've sold out somebody.
I'm not saying we won't if the money's right.
I'm not saying we won't either, but just know we've sold out at that point.
There'll be signs.
Yeah. I'm going to start walking around with a Flavor Flav clock, giant gold chain. What else we got, Mercer? We got Bandit Radio Hour on YouTube, all your RSS feeds, Spotify. Now we're actually on Apple Podcast.
Yeah, most anywhere you can find a podcast. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look up Bandit Radio Hour and you'll see us.
Hey, and I'll say one thing. Google Bandit Radio Hour and you'll find us, thanks to my producer. And it's like mostly him and just a little bit of my chitter-chatter.
A lot of copy and paste.
A lot of it. All right. So, I've been hearing about a lot of different people with legal problems. Just you see it on like social media, whether like just people having bad luck of a legal system. And I was reading something that really fascinated me a while back, and it was on the origin of where the term outlaw comes from. And I know, just like me, like everybody else growing up, hell yeah, you want to be an outlaw. You want to, like, the kind of Americana image it provoked was like, oh, you kind of live outside of town, you live on the edge of things, you don't really answer to nobody, independent spirit, yada, yada, yada. And some of that, like, is true from the original thing, but it started in Europe, like, even before, I think, Columbus came to the New World. And what it meant was, you had done something that did not necessarily mean like punishment, and because they didn't have prisons, like only like kings had little, what do you call little
Dungeon?
Yeah, dungeon. Thank you. Those little things. But what it meant was you were outed from the law, and that meant you got no legal protection from the king. What that then transpired to was everybody under that king wouldn't sell you anything. And imagine being in the Middle Ages and the local butcher and the local tailor and the like 30 people, not 30, it's probably like a couple hundred people you know from your, like, don't sell you stuff anymore. It's damn near an execution. Oh, and also they're allowed to hunt you because you're not legally, you're not a human. Like, you are a human, but you don't get any protections from the court. And it was much more of just like the local government going, you're such a piece of crap, you don't have our backing and protection anymore. Everybody under this town or anywhere else can have at you.
You're on your own. Good luck.
Like, really. And, like, you can't go to the sheriff. You can't go, like, you're done.
But would I still have to pay taxes?
Man. Like, is that worth the trade? But this actually kept, like, a neat little... And don't get me wrong, I'm certain there's extremes of this that are, like, terrible. But it kept, like, an honor system kind of in check around people because you didn't want to piss everybody off around you and have them stop trading with you to keep you alive more comfortably than if they didn't. Compare that to now, where it's not so much the community that judges you, it is a system of laws that can be enforced as strictly or as loosely as, let me see the different levels of it. The people that created the laws, so like the legislator, and you got, at least for us, we have 3 different legislators we got to deal with. We got the federal, we got the state, and we got the local. So that's all those laws together that affect us. And what actually matters on if we get punishment or not, typically, is how much of a lawyer you can afford. If you can't afford a lawyer, you're screwed. You're getting the worst punishment out of whatever it is. And even if you get the free lawyer, good luck.
He doesn't want to be there in the first place.
But, like, true. No, they don't. There is no, like, and if you get out of it, even on a technicality or whatever, I think our community, maybe I'm putting on rose-colored glasses and looking at the past, but I really think we've lost something with a lot of our culture of like, oh, you did something bad? Like, really bad? No, go get your whatever somewhere else. But now it's, and I know I'm really sounding like a bleeding heart commie on this one. Calm down, Liberty Prime. Don't sick 'em. But, like, it seemed like the other way was much more, I don't know, fair. like if you do, there is bad cases of like mob mentality where they all gang up on one person for a crime they didn't admit. Hell, in our hometown, there was a case of where they thought they caught the killer of a family and did execution to him, and it ended up being like the housemaid or something like that. That was jail.
Somebody lied to make,
Yeah, they found out
there's tons of cases like that everywhere.
So many. I guess the devil's advocate would be like, that's under our system of like legal and man, I've said some criticisms of authority figures on this show already. But for the most part, I say like it's the system. Like it's not these unique individuals. It is like the system that promotes certain individuals to the top that make this different stuff, different laws, different regulations. But man, when it comes to prosecuting attorneys, Like, that is someone who wakes up every morning, puts on their tie, and says, I'm going to go ruin as many lives as terribly as I can today.
And by doing so, will make my career in life better.
Yes, and I will brag about how I'm tough on crime by saying I lock up anybody as hard as I can, which I think we'd all agree when it comes to a red-handed killer or thief or something like that. We're all like, yeah, great. That's kind of... I think that's what most people that don't pay attention very closely, when they hear tough on crime, that's what they imagine. And it's like, no, it's your cousin that wasn't wearing a seatbelt that got $200 taken from him for it, or got tried, and all he was doing was not wearing a seatbelt, being a danger to himself.
You want to go through a windshield? That's on you. I've got nothing against
Yes, and well, now hang on. The centrist or the more pro-collectivist would say, but that's going to raise your health care premiums, that guy going through that windshield, and that's going to affect all of society, so we need to reduce...
Well, it's not deadly. Maybe he just dies and they won't affect it at all.
Better point. Better counter. But no, like, my thing is, well, if that's the case, then we shouldn't have any speed limits over 30 miles an hour.
I agree.
Like if that's the case, like, we shouldn't
send it.
Like, there's this great example I heard one time, and it was speaking of safety for a society. What if I told you I was going to make an invention, and I was going to sell it to as many people as possible, and what it's going to do is cook food, but it's going to use it with highly combustible explosive gas. And we're just going to kind of trust every single American to work the valves and know it right and how to light it. And it'll, at least at the time it's invented, it'll cook faster and more efficient than about anything before.
I would normally be okay with it until I realize how stupid Americans are, and you're probably talking about the stove. But
yeah.
I don't trust Americans most Americans to be able to operate a stove anymore.
And the thing the guy was getting at, like, the invention of the stove, what it did, it saved time for preparing food that Americans and other people could then spend on other things that would collectively lead to improving society. That a guy in his off time invents something that takes off, sells, improves everybody that buys it, he gets rich, invests his money. There's a big chain reaction to all that. But if you tried, I mean, for God's sakes, look what they did to gas cans. Like, you can't invent anything nowadays.
The gas can is so much deadlier now than it was. Because before, people would, burn it, and, they'd worry about it burning back and blowing up. No, now all you do is spill it all over yourself and everywhere and on everything and have to hold it 3 times as long. And if anything, you're covered in more gas.
And it turned out, it went from, these, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but these, 50 companies that made gas cans to, only these 3 or 4 can now because they have the special plastics. And, all you guys that, all right, metal jerry cans were kind of out of style. But, you had to do it perfectly to these regulations that the government set.
I ordered a metal jerry can off Amazon
recently. Oh, you can still buy kerosene cans.
Yeah.
It's quite, I like it. I feel old-timey. So, and even in the vein of old-timey, I've really got to talk about something that ripped my heart out of my chest the other day and made me realize not only am I old, that getting old is different than it has been for at least the past, since the 50s, at least, since Looney Tunes came out. And here's what I'm going to get at. It's me and my son and daughter. We're hanging out the other day. And up on the YouTube we're watching together is a guy mocking and imitating. You remember the frog from Warner Brothers? Hello,
the top hat.
Yeah, hello my baby, hello my darling, hello my ragtime gal. It's like a guy with a top hat and he's doing it with the cane, and I go, it's the frog. That's funny. I haven't seen that in a while. And my son, who knows everything there is to know about pop culture for an 8-year-old that watches YouTube, goes, frog, what are you talking about? I go, Warner Brothers, and it clicks, and I'm like, y'all haven't been watching Looney Tunes. Y'all are the first generation that hasn't watched Looney Tunes, and he knew what Space Jam 2 was.
Yeah.
He didn't know what Space Jam was, and I didn't know all of the cartoons from when my dad was growing up, but good God, the past.
That was before R. Kelly was in jail for the 3rd time, and now for a long time.
random R. Kelly insert.
Well, he sings the beginning of Space Jam. I believe I can fly.
Okay.
That's how my mind works.
Oh, dude, I was like, we're talking about Looney Tunes and you bring in R. Kelly? What?
My mind was flying as well.
Dude, it was flying.
I took a sip of Jordan's secret stuff and I was gone.
No, dude, no. Was it Jordan or Cosby's? But
Floor.
But like, no, and here's the thing that like irritates me. Like, my son knows what Saw is. The movie Saw, you know.
I know what it is, but I won't watch it.
Yeah, and he's like, don't get me wrong, he's never watched the movie. I really don't think he's seen anything more gory than what a Minecraft video can like produce of it, you know, like big blocky digital things. But he's like, oh, I know in Saw that first there's this guy named Jigsaw and he tricks everybody and he's dead, but he's not dead. And then I'm like, you haven't even watched the movie. You ruined the movie for yourself. Like, what? And it's so odd. And but don't get me wrong, I watch YouTube with them, and it's nothing like too crazy and out of this world. Yeah. I'm like, what a new meta of interaction.
Yeah, I used to love getting home and like first thing I do is like turn on the cartoons, and it'd be like the Disney's like afternoon hour or the Looney Tunes.
Dude, those were gold. Do you remember? So I know your autistic ass remembers Garfield in the morning. Garfield and Friends.
It's come on so early.
Yeah,
and then have like the pig, and then go like the rooster, like the barnyard.
Do you remember the egg with the legs?
Sheldon.
Dude, that thing gave me nightmares.
Really?
I don't know what, because he was like sarcastic, right?
Yeah, he was just an egg with feet.
Yeah, and dude, there was something about that my brain couldn't compute when I was little, like it was half born and half wasn't.
I thought he was excellent.
Oh, you shut up. I'm about to kick you out of your own trailer. But, dude, I remember having a nightmare, and I can't even remember, but like he was chasing me and still being very sarcastic, and I knew if he like caught me, I'd be dead or something, and it was...
I used to have a recurring dream when I was real little that Snuffleupagus was after me.
What was... Oh, wait.
He's the big hairy elephant from Sesame Street.
Ooh.
And it never bothered me watching the show, but I would just have dreams at night that he was chasing me through the woods, and it was terrifying.
Dude, that's a mimetic kill agent. Like, that's they were MK Ultraing us with that stuff from a young age.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't really believe that. That was a joke, everybody. Kind of. Yeah, I got to think about that one for a little bit, actually. But we'll come back to that. But yeah, getting older now, it's... Well, one, what did I say at dinner? Oh, my son asked me if when I was growing up, they brought up Mario Kart. That's where the conversation started. Both my kids got Mario Kart for their Nintendo DS slide, whatever the hell it is. And I go, yeah, we used to play that growing up on the N64. And my son perks up and goes, oh, you mean the... Nintendo Cube? And I'm like, no, that's the GameCube, son. Know your role. That's Resident Evil 4. I was like, no, N64 actually had like Mario Kart that we would drive around and have fun on. And my daughter goes, how long ago was that? Without missing a beat, I'm like, that was about 20 years ago.
That hurt to hear.
Oh, dude, I was like, that, and like I know I'm 31 and I'm cool with it, but when you say things like that, you're like, I've never said that before, and that hurt. We're gonna end the night with just some updates on what I've gathered from the foreign policy decisions.
So it gets sadder.
Yes, it gets sad. As with age comes great sadness at the realization of the reality unfolding around you. But that's me joking. I really think things are gonna get better. But before they do, we got some shit to deal with. Like, let me get this first and foremost out of the way. I'm about to talk about Biden, but just know I really don't think it's him. Like, I don't think Biden sits down and is like, what do I think the U.S. foreign policy is going to be today?
I don't think he thinks.
It's like Elon Musk put in a brilliant tweet that I think he might have deleted later. It's, the person that writes the teleprompter is the real president. Like, it's whoever's directing this guy. But so far, at least with Ukraine, I think the last time we talked about it, we had just sent 40 million, or 40 billion, my bad with with
Yeah.
a B to over there while we're having our economic crash. And since then, I know we've sent several more aid
It's
packages.
like $800 million a pop.
And you know, what a coincidence that $40 billion ended up being about roughly the same price tag as a year in Afghanistan cost. So we got out of Afghanistan, but we're still paying the money to influence governments as well as the weapon manufacturers that are providing armaments to those governments. Merce, what's the word of the season?
Convenience.
Yeah, what a convenience. So, and you know, one of the craziest things that came out this week, like I think really just puts the cherry on top, was that Biden or his the Speaker of the White House or whoever that new like awful lady is, like not awful like a bad person, like just really bad at her job. They said that Biden is refusing to speak to Putin until he withdraws. And I guess because Putin's just such an evil, terrible person, a uniquely evil person. Yeah, I don't like Putin, but there's like dime a dozen. And like, here's the thing. There are people getting killed every day in Ukraine. And I'm not even saying they have to like say, they don't have to say like, we're not giving you any of this or like, you know, but the fact that you're not even talking to the guy and that you're just prolonging the suffering with, and like every day, like just imagine your small town. The local 5 towns around it or cities are just having bombs and mortars dropped.
Screaming for the love of God, pick up the phone.
Dude, and that's happening every day. And our government is like, no, we're not going to, even though we're providing so much armament, so much support to one side, we're not going to talk to the other side because we have no real end goal in sight. And that's the thing with all of these wars. They're at least... I got problems with World War II. We might get in a later episode next season. But at least there was objectives in World War II. Like,
bomb them to hell.
Yeah, that was a lot of it. That was a lot. But it's like, bomb them to hell until their leader commits suicide. Like, then we'll get done bombing them at least. And man, since then, I mean, for like a little hobby, I look into U.S. foreign conflicts. And it's never like... Our end goal is always to establish a Western democracy that acts and believes in the same way that the U.S. federal government does. And it's like...
And then it fails.
And then it fails terribly. It's like, imagine that. Oh, so that's on one end of it as far as Ukraine, just letting that god-awful crisis go on with no resolve in sight. But at least he's helping out, like, our country, right, Merce? Like, didn't he just do a bunch of things with oil, like, got reserves out for the...
Yeah, he sent it across the ocean.
To
several countries, but China being one of them. And I just pay like $5 a gallon for diesel.
But I'm sure there's got to be some way that benefits the United States by, well... Maybe the people at the top. Probably them. They're probably benefiting off of it.
According to him, it's good for us, but I don't know how.
And dude, you know the thing about like inflation is like inflation does hurt everybody, but it hurts poor people so much worse than rich people. And when I say rich people, I don't mean like the richest person in our hick town. I don't like, I don't know. We're in South Florida, so you go like to chunks of Florida. There's some big money getting thrown around, but like, it's so much money. And they can weather the storm through inflation. But man, if you're a family that's like been saving up to like, God forbid, buy a home, or not even that, but just like you're just making ends meet.
Yeah.
Boom. Ends meeting is immediately harder.
I'm single. I went to the grocery store the other day and like spent like almost like $300. And I literally thought, I was like, I don't know how a family...
This man eats Vienna sausages and beanie weenies. I've seen
frozen pizzas. It's not a glamorous life, but it's mine.
Don't knock frozen pizzas. Red Baron will fly us all to the land of taste buds and happiness. Red Baron, did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored, but we're looking to be.
Hey, stay tuned for season 2, everybody. Well, guys, it's a late night, and in typical Bandit fashion, we're worn out. We flapped our gums enough, and we're going to take a hiatus. We don't know quite for how long.
Month, roughly, give or take.
Give or take. We'll be back. We're going to keep uploading clips and have more stuff for y'all to take in and consume. And I will be back to spread more of the mind virus. But hey, y'all folks have a good month. We'll give y'all a holler when Merce gets back from Kosovo. Bandit out.